Well, hello, and
Hi.
welcome to the Life Sciences New York Spotlight Series, a regular series of conversations with thought leaders, innovators, and folks integral to the success of New York's biomed industry. I'm really happy to be joined today with Pierre Morrisseau, the president and CEO of OneGroup. We at Life Sciences New York are fortunate to call OneGroup a partner in our Membership Advantage program, a, a, a discount and preferred services program that we provide to our members to help them grow their businesses. OneGroup and Pierre have been terrific partners in that space, and I'm looking forward to spending a little time. So Pierre, thank you for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Win.
We were chatting a little bit before we started taping, and I was talking with you about your background, Pierre, and as I said to you then, I'm always fascinated to understand the journey that folks take to get to the space that they're at today. And kind of before we talk about OneGroup, I'm wondering if we can talk a bit about Pierre Morrisseau and your background and how you find yourself where you're at today.
Certainly. Well, thank you, Win. Well, I have a very eclectic background, I like to tell people. I'll start with where I'm at now, which is in insurance, but my original training was in engineering and then more specifically chemical. And more specifically, I did research in the material science arena for chip manufacturing. And so you might be thinking, how did I end up in insurance? And it was basically my journey to Boston. I followed my wife. I got married right out of school, who was in Boston. And as I was looking through the world of what to do next, I happened across an interview with Wausau Insurance for safety engineer. And I'm just always curious about how things work. And so, long story short, I really enjoyed learning about what insurance was and what I would be doing, which was more of a business consultant for them. And took that job and got to learn a lot about what was going on in Boston. Every manufacturer, every construction out site, we kind of insured them all. So I got to know that. They promoted me. I moved to Syracuse, did industrial hygiene, which actually required my chemical background. But there I got used to or got intrigued with a very innovative gentleman here and started working on organizational culture and performance, all in the area of risk management. Like, how do we help people improve their businesses to reduce risk? Not just don't do things, but how do we actually improve their ability to be good at it? Think about the football player who can do better blocking and tackling, less likely to get hurt. From there, I went to work for a small agency and got involved in actually building a business, a consulting company that worked around that and building infrastructure. And about 23 years ago, I joined OneGroup. So I think I went from engineering all the way to business to sales, and now I'm back, kind of running the business side. The other interesting thing about people I tell them is I'm really not French. I'm faux French. Long story there, but the short version is my father we had a French sounding last name, and he just thought it'd be fun to name us French. So I kind of rebelled, took Spanish, just a little bit of my personality revealed. So there you
Well,
go.
thank you for admitting to being faux French because I think you've certainly hit it out of the park with a name like Pierre Morrisseau. You would have had me fooled, Pierre, had you not told me that. And let's talk a little bit about OneGroup. Certainly, folks in upstate New York may have some understanding or awareness of the OneGroup brand. But in many ways, that name encompasses a variety of products and services. And can you help us understand a little bit what OneGroup is all about?
Yeah, it's a great question because we didn't actually put a lot of it in the name of what we do. We think of the world as we are here to help people survive and thrive. So if you think about insurance in the traditional sense, we buy a policy, we forget about it. I don't like working with my own insurance, just for the record, because it's kind of a pain and you do it and you forget it. The goal of OneGroup was to actually be an ongoing support system to businesses, which we also do insurance. And we use insurance to help people protect their business if something happens, but we also help them leverage it, leverage risk financing. We like to call it risk financing instead of insurance, to actually help propel their business. So we're really made up of three major elements. We do employee benefits, so your group medical for businesses, and all of the ancillary stuff that goes along there. We do commercial insurance, which is a wide range of coverages that help you run your business and protect it. And then we also do personal insurance. The fourth element of what we do, though, is actually consulting, where we help you in the whole claim space. How can you be prepared to have a claim? What do you do after? Risk management. How do you build this organization so that you can perform better, mitigate all kinds of risks? And then lastly, HR, because it ties the two together. HR is the source of all of our businesses, is people. And so we do HR to support people. But we do that all under the realm of how do we help you survive and thrive. It's kind of a very simple mission statement. It's a little unorthodox because we don't treat the world as a transaction. So people are confused, like, well, what do you do exactly? I go, well, it depends on what you need. Like, we start where you're at, and then we ask you where you want to be, and then we complement what that is. We've got a little off the normal reservation here a little bit in terms of what we do. We've actually helped clients rebrand because we rebranded. We were originally a small agency called Bailey and Haskell Insurance. And then as we grew and merged more things together, we said, well, we need a common name that ties us together. OneGroup. So our client said, hey, we have the same problem. So we literally help them do that. So when I say we'll help you do anything, we kind of will. You're just getting a whole realm of expertise. We are only one entity of four. We're actually owned by Community Financial Systems, which is a publicly traded company. So we also have a banking operation that's one of our sister companies. We have a wealth management company that's one of our sister companies. And we have actually a company that operates internationally called BPAS, which is Benefits Plan Administration Systems. And there's about 5 companies that work in that the background of administering 401ks and trusts and all of that arena. So the great thing is, if you get one of us, you get all of our expertise. We bring it all to the table because, it's about knowledge for our clients.
And I'm hoping we can chat a little bit about those types of services, helping particularly emerging and growing companies really understand and um, take a lead in being an employer of choice and recognizing the structures and assets needed to really manage business growth. But before we do that, I'd like to spend a little time kind of focusing in on a word that I hear you use and a word that we use all the time, which is really risk and risk mitigation. Certainly for the innovator community, for folks in the life sciences who are creating businesses out of scientific research, the concept of de-risking the product, right? Risk mitigation is a critical step in being able to bring an innovation to market. And I know when you're talking about risk, you're really talking about kind of a different focus in that space. But I'm wondering if you could share with us kind of your perspective on what does it mean to manage risk? How does a company both manage growth and minimize risk at the same time?
It's a great question. So risk is a word, in the context of being an insurance broker, you think of it in a very narrow lane. Those things that are insurable. We actually look at all risk. Some of which you can buy insurance for anything. It's just too expensive. So it doesn't become a viable alternative for you. So when we're working with our clients, we're actually talking about the risk of the business. And if you think about an emerging business, doing the research, will it work out? There's financial risk. That's where we can lean on some of our other partners that can help us with that. So we think of risk broadly. We know how to manage a segment of it really well. And then you have to bring in the other knowledge and partners. There's compliance risk, there's regulatory risk, there's image risk. All of these things we like to look at globally and pull people together. So how do you manage it? The simplest way, we helped the New Air, which was designed to help enter, we call them drones. I know they don't like the word, but The unmanned aerial systems is what their preferred method, description of it. Well, that was over a decade and a half ago. And so when they launched that initiative, we were the first carrier, and they were really a small entity, but we said, we're your risk management advisory board because there's a lot of unknown risk in this. And so what you start to do is you start to look at scenarios like, what am I really concerned with? What are the priorities? And we talk through that. And you'd be surprised that if you just think ahead and think through scenarios, there are obvious answers that come up that you can start to get your hands around. Otherwise, it just feels humongous and unattainable. So we like to help people narrow it down and then bring the expertise in. And it's also business planning because risk reduction is business planning. Like your business plan is risk reduction. So if you think about an emerging R&D plan, you'd have to look at, well, what is that cash flow? What's that revenue that's going to go into that? When can I expect money? How would I get money? How do I get ahead of that? Those are all risk mitigation techniques, even though they don't involve anything to do with insurance. So I don't know if that helps clarify it a little bit.
Well, let me channel perhaps a thought or two that some in our audience may be thinking, which is, oh, good God, this task feels huge, and I don't know where to begin the process. Maybe I'm a scientist who's developed a potential device or pharmaceutical, and I'm interested in building this out to a business. I don't know the first place to start. And quite honestly, all the advice I get is about hiring other people to give me some additional advice. Talk to me, if you can, Pierre, about kind of the start of the process.
Yeah.
Where does it make sense? How can we break down this huge task into achievable smaller bites, if you will?
Well, I definitely understand the whole consulting and outsourcing thing, and that's very fatiguing to a new business, especially when you don't have that budget. One of the great things about the world is it's very repetitive. There's a lot of patterns that form over and over again. So if you think about any business, any startup, any R&D, someone's really already been through this before. And so the reality is one of the benefits to coming some like an advisor like we are, because we don't charge you for it, right? It's about the ability to do business. And there's others that are like us, is that we've probably already seen it 10 or 15 times. So we can short circuit this with planned approaches to the questions you're going to know. Like we know the traps that people run into. And we also know about how you need to go about it if we don't know specifically. And so you think about starting a business of any type, especially if you're more of an artist or a scientist, you never really got into the business development world, which is a whole different arena, right? Dentists, doctors, it's all the same problem. They're great at what they do. Well, there's really a model that's hasn't been changed much in years. That if you can think of yourself as McDonald's and start working through standard operating procedures, processes that have already been done, and you customize those to what you need because they won't work out of the box. That gets you a long way. The other thing I always tell people is build it like it's going to be $100 million company. Don't build it like you're just trying to get to the next area. So when you do that, there's already a game plan for that as well. So it really is about getting to people who can give you that template and then getting advisors who've been through it already. So a lot of young companies I know will go recruit a few people that are just kindred spirits and they can talk you through 90%. Now the last 10 is can be the tricky part. But until you get into something that really requires someone to roll up their sleeves and help you with the details, like some of the regulatory compliance or grant writing, you can get the basic template of how you have to operate. Managing people is a great example. How many people have ever managed people when they start a business? It's not that, there's a lot around that. That's why we have the HR side, because it's always one of the questions that comes up with everybody. So you
Well,
chunk it up by using what already exists, I guess is the short answer. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm intrigued too to listen to you talk about the HR end of the work that you're doing, because I will tell you, and you and I have chatted in other contexts about this, right? The ability to recruit and retain talent is a huge challenge for the life sciences community, particularly in communities that may not have the most robust life sciences community, right? You've got to convince sometimes talent to come to places that they don't immediately think of. And one of the ways to be successful in that is to make sure that you've prepared your business to be an employer of choice, an employer that employees want to come to, want to stay with, want to grow with. And so
Mhm.
I think that's a huge motivator for many people, and it's encouraging to listen to you talk about the services that you provide in that space. Let me ask you this. Again, I'm imagining someone who may be watching this and thinking, okay, how do I start? When do I start? When is it too early? When is it too late? How do we make those decisions, and how can someone best connect with you and members of the team at OneGroup?
So I've helped lots. My hobby is also helping emerging businesses figure out how to launch. And the beginning is the hardest because it's the slowest going, it's the most unknown. So one of the things is I tell people there's resources all around you, and you start the day you have the idea. So you have the idea. People go, well, I don't have the business plan. I go, it's not about the business plan. You need to know people have already been at the idea stage. So if you have a few people you can trust that would be representative of the market, whoever that is, if it's internal or external, you want to start creating that feedback loop. So when I have an idea, actually, when you do it with me, you bring it to me and you throw it at, you're going to get immediate feedback. It's going to help you shape this. So you want to have kind of a panel of advisors as you go into this that you know you can trust and that will just be honest with you about what they think. It does not mean they're right. You're accumulating combined experiences and putting them into yourself. Similarly with us, we tell people all the time, you can call us. You do not need to be our client. Call us up. Pierre may not know. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot I don't know because that's what, as I get older, the more I learn, the more I know I don't know. But because we have over 250 people that have a lot of varied experiences, will generally set you up. But what I can do is advise you in the process and how it goes. And we're all very accessible. So we start because we have a sincere interest. We love watching businesses start and emerge. We're junkies in that, if you will. And because it's good for everybody. Small business is the backbone of the world, not just here in the US. And so, someone had to have a good idea. So you start really by thinking big when you're small, and then you go to people who've already been there. We've grown from 35 people in 23 years to 250 from one state to multiple states. The thing I did all along the way is I always looked at someone who'd already achieved it and I went and introduced myself and hey, how'd you do it? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. R&D, I call it, rip off and duplicate, and I don't mean intellectual property, but ideas and processes about people and recruiting are all around that. It's the same with recruiting. So what you think is your weakness is your strength. I always tell people all the time, you have a chance to create a culture out of the box that will be exactly with who you want to recruit. But you have to be purposeful. This is the only thing I tell people. You have to be purposeful, begin with the end in mind, know how you want to leave the business, work your way back. So these are simple things that everyone else that's been in the business world understands, but for someone just starting out, it's great advice. It's great information.
Well, listen, on that hopeful and directive note, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up this conversation. I do want to make sure that folks who are watching this know how to connect with Pierre and the team. You can find them at onegroup.com. That's one word. You can also find more information about OneGroup on our website at Life Sciences New York under our Membership Advantage tab. Pierre Morrisseau, President and CEO of OneGroup, thank you for spending some time with us today. This has been a terrific conversation. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Win.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
thanks much.
Bye bye now.